All right. Well, to be sensitive to everyone's time, I'm just going to kick it off. I'm sure we'll have some people trickle in as we continue on with the program. But welcome, everybody. My name is Gian Sabalario, and welcome to the AHANA Academic Experiences here at BC. Where this originated from is the fact that usually in the first weekend in April, we host something called KAF Francis AHANA Weekend. If you were a part of our first panel last week, I shared that this was a really big factor in my own decision-making process 4 years ago. Crazy to think. It was a weekend where BC invited students of color to campus, and it was 2 nights, 3 days. You were paired with a current student. You got to, experience a little bit about BC for your own self, being able to shadow classes, engage with faculty members, the fact that you were paired with a student, being able to interact with them, ask them these difficult questions, or just really get to know what they do day to day. It was such an intimate experience for me. It was a real game changer because BC was the only school that actually, of all the schools I had gotten into, extended their arm in that way specifically for AHANA students. And it meant a great deal to me to be able to learn about the AHANA perspective in particular. And so for those of you that are joining us tonight, we're going to do our best to give you a little bit of that from what we can do here on Zoom. If you tuned into our first session, and if you didn't, it's posted online, so feel free to check back in there. There was a great deal of ground that we covered between what it was like to be first gen, AHANA experiences in general, addressing some of the things that have happened on campus, BC culture, all that. It was much more from a bird's eye view. And so we really got to delve into that matters. I really recommend that you go in. Moving forward, this year's, of course, is going to be very focused on academics. And then afterwards, next week, we're going to be talking about community engagement, navigating the social scene, extracurriculars. I have all of your questions here. We have over 24 questions that have come on. There are some questions that are particularly about that social scene, so I ask that we just hold off on that. Inevitably, it'll come up in this panel, but I'm sure we'll delve into it even further next week. So for now, let's just focus on academics. How this is going to work is I'm going to ask that each panelist introduce themselves by alphabetical order. And we're going to talk about first why they chose BC, what they study, where they're coming from. And then after that, it's going to be much more popcorn style, following all the other questions that you guys have asked. So let's kick it off with Alejandra. Would you mind just sharing us your name, academic division, what you're studying, where you're from, and why you chose BC?
Hi, everyone. So my name is Alejandra. I'm a sophomore right now at BC. I'm in the Connell School of Nursing, so I'm a nursing major with a minor in psych. Originally from Bronx, New York. And I honestly didn't know anything about BC when I applied to BC. I felt that it was one of the few schools that I had applied with the nursing program, and I was still on the fence about going into nursing. But I came for Admitted Eagles Day during the AHANA Weekend, and I fell in love with the community and really the sense of spirit that was, excuse me, that was present on campus.
Hi, everybody. My name is Armani Mitchell. I'm a sophomore studying applied psychology in the Lynch School of Education and Human Development. I also have a minor in marketing in the Carroll School of Management. And I chose BC simply off of a small interaction I had with Howard Singer. Some of you guys actually wasn't able to attend AHANA Weekend myself. So I actually came to Boston for one weekend with my mom, where I visited BC and another school I got accepted to in the Boston area. And I was actually able to sit in on a class from I guess a cousin that my college advisor had that went to BC as well. So she actually gave me a nice tour around campus, allowed me to sit in on her marking class, and that was an amazing experience. But the game changer for me was definitely coming in and sitting with Howard Singer. Howard Singer is the admissions counselor for the New York City area, specifically the Bronx and Manhattan. From from talking to him about my experience, who I am, where I'm from, I actually got the idea that he really cared about who I was, wanted to get to know me, and allowed me to understand that I had faculty and staff support before even committing to be a student here. And that made the decision to come into BC so much easier for me. And I've been able to commit those same type of relationships and foster those same type of relationships with other faculty and staff members along my time here as well.
Hi, everyone. My name is Vanessa Rizviarco. I'm a senior at BC. I am from Chino, California. I'm in the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences studying political science and perspectives, which is also, it's a philosophy major. And I chose BC out of a leap of faith, really. I did not attend AHANA Weekend. My the freshman or before freshman year during that summer. I had never visited BC's campus. So my coming to BC was different from a lot of my friends' experiences. I had never visited the campus, and I knew that I wanted to come to a school on the East Coast ever since I was 10, because I had visited Boston when I was 10. And for some reason, I fell in love with the city, and I visited Harvard, and I said, oh, you know what? I can see myself studying here 8 years from now. And ever since that first interaction with Boston, the city, and just the history and everything, I decided, I'm going to come here and I'm going to apply to schools here when I decide to go to I decide where I want to go to college. So being from California, it would have been smart of me to apply to UCs. I didn't apply to any UCs because I said, no, I know I want to go to the East Coast. I want a different experience for myself. And BC was actually the only school on the East Coast that accepted me. And as I did more research about it, after I got accepted, I realized that it's a Jesuit institution, Jesuit Catholic institution, and my family's Catholic, and my mom felt comfortable with me coming to this school, and she really loves Boston as well. I mean, it's a center for education, for all kinds of different kinds of education. Harvard's here, Berkeley School of Music's here, MIT's here. So you're just around a lot of people who are interested in and passionate in what they're studying. So that's what made me choose BC.
Awesome. Hey, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to call in today. I'm Walsh. I'm a senior in the Carroll School of Management studying finance. I also have minors in math and music in the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences, and I'm from Shrewsbury, Massachusetts, so pretty local. And definitely that played a factor into me choosing BC. I went to public school, but there was just a dialogue around BC for me growing up in central Massachusetts about it's that Catholic school in Boston, but at the same time, it's the only school that has Division I athletics in the city of Boston. It is a school that has a ton of spirit, but at the same time has rigorous academics. So I think that dialogue about BC marrying a community culture, a place where if you identify with BC, you very much flaunt it and show it and wear it on your sleeve. Also with the rigor of academics that I definitely was looking for coming out of high school. Those two factors definitely played a role. I personally didn't go to Keith Francis, but the community that I felt coming in here definitely, made me choose to stay. I think that was also a big factor in me, choosing not to transfer, choose to look at other schools after the fact of enrolling here, that there is a place where I could find people who both look like me, who don't look like me, who think like me, who don't think like me. Just having that sense of community that's very, not homogenous, that you have a lot of different ideas just floating around, definitely played a factor in me choosing to both come and stay at BC.
Awesome. Something I'm realizing is that I never introduced myself. I too am a senior. I'm in the Carroll School of Management. I study operations management. And then I also minor in medical humanities, health and culture in the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences. So be mindful of everybody that's sharing here, because at the very end, we're also going to ask that everybody hold up their email. So if there's any questions, of course, put it up in the chat, but we'll also delve into it in our own personal time, so don't hesitate. So up next, a question we got is, what kinds of academic support systems are in place for AHANA students?
I can start off with a resource that is available to all students, but that I've used and a lot of my other friends have used, and that's the Connors Family Learning Center and all the resources that are housed within our library network. So within our main library, O'Neill Library, there's a place called the Connors Family Learning Center, and that's where you can go and get free tutoring from your peers. For any class you can go, you sign up for free, and it's been really helpful for me. I used it for multivariable calculus, which was one of the harder classes that I've taken here at BC. I've used it for one of my music theory classes. And just the fact that you can go for free, you're with someone that you're really comfortable around, you're talking through the material. It's definitely low stress and something that I really ended up using because the rigor of academics, definitely from high school to college, just the emphasis is more on comprehension rather than regurgitation. And having, especially for me as a freshman, a junior and a senior, just kind of helping me go through how to study for college rather than studying for high school definitely helped. They also have an essay editing thing or program where you send in your essay and a couple days later they'll send it back with feedback. So definitely, it's not specific to AHANA students, but the fact that it's available to all students here at BC definitely saved both me and my GPA those first couple of semesters.
I'd also like to add Learning to Learn is a great resource as well. For our students, Learning to Learn is a resource for first generation students. Obviously not students of color specifically, but that kind of does correlate in some way. But pretty much their office where all of our first generation students actually have an advisor, and you're able to go there for academic support. I personally didn't take the class, but I know one very popular class that many of my peers have taken is Applications of Learning Theory. So it pretty much is a class that you'll take in your first year that pretty much teaches you like how to study, how to be organized, how to pretty much how to kind of get the organizational skills that you need to be a great student. And I know that's helped a lot of my friends throughout their career at BC, whether they're sophomore, juniors, or seniors, and they've taken that with them as well.
So I've used a lot of the Connell School of Learning programs and what Walsh was talking about. I've gone there for extra help in nursing courses. Nursing courses are brutal. So it was definitely a good resource. Me personally, I was very concerned coming into college of how one program wouldn't reflect everything that I was learning in the class. So I would say definitely feel free to reach out to the TAs in the class. Your professors also, everyone at BC is so willing to really help you when you're struggling, but you have to advocate for yourself and just really reach out to professors. I would say that your TA is probably your best friend in the class. I've honestly, I have every TA's phone number in my phone, and I'll just text them a question at 11 before a test, and more often than not, they'll text back more often than not, they'll text back.
Kind of going off of what Walsh said, I used the Connors Learning Center in the library when I was a freshman, specifically because I came in as pre-med, and chemistry was definitely a hard class to take, and I definitely needed the extra help. I ended up switching to political science because it called me more, but I definitely took advantage of the Connors Learning Center, and I made sure to reach out, like Alejandra said, to reach out to my professors, and especially the TAs. They're more than willing to help, and they're more of our peers than our professors are, so they're much more approachable, especially coming in as a freshman. It could be an intimidating experience, but just know that both the TA and especially the professor is there to help you and guide you along your academic experience.
Awesome. Can each of you share a meaningful classroom experience? What's it like working with professors? Armani, I'm curious, especially on your end, since you said that was a big piece as to why you even chose BC, that was something that Howard assured you about. So when you got here, did you find that? What was that like for you?
Yeah, for sure. Actually, it's really interesting. The same professor I was able to sit in on his class, that's summer before I committed, Bradford Hudson. So he's a marketing principles professor at BC. I'm actually taking him right now. So it's funny, just how life comes in full circles. But I definitely made a lot of great relationships with faculty and staff during my time here. A very important class that I took, for me at least, was business law. Might not sound like the most interesting class to some people, but I loved it. I had Thomas Wesner, and he's very notorious in CSOM. Pretty much me and Professor Wesner had a great relationship. I used to go to his office. I was literally just to talk. Most of the time, we probably never talked about law. Sometimes we tried to. Even this summer, I was on campus. I worked with admissions as well, part of the summer staff. And he invited me and a few other students to his house for dinner one night, which was great. So just being able to have those family ties at your school is honestly a great opportunity. But I would say with business law, though, it kind of did allow me to reflect on, I guess, the greater structure of our society, and he made that very clear in the class. It didn't feel like it was specific to just, I guess, that one course, that one business, but to life as well. So I guess within that class, at least, it allowed me to pretty much just understand the greater construction of our society, especially in American legal system, especially what we're facing right now, and allowed me to have a different eye and different perspective of just the things surrounding me.
Yeah, I can go next.
Sorry. Go ahead, Walsh. You go for
Thanks. I was just going to talk about my financial accounting class. So it's part of the business core if you're in the business school. And I had Liz Bagnani. And one thing that really stood the class out amongst all my other classes was that, yes, she was a great professor. Yes, she covered the material very well. But once a month, she would do something called an examine. It's this Jesuit idea where you take a moment to think about the past week, the past month, everything that's happened, and just slow down and kind of be a little more methodical about how you're going to live that next month, that next week, that next day. And to hear that coming from from an accounting professor, to hear her just take class time, just think about what we as sophomores and juniors were doing with our degrees, doing with our days with our friends. It really stood out to me. She's a really caring person. She definitely has a really great reputation within the business school. And just, I don't know, that moment just stuck out to me. The fact that a professor, someone who's very well versed in his or her subject area, would just take the time to, ask students, how's the past month been? How are your friends? How are your struggles? How are you going to live your life going forward? And that idea of reflection and contemplation is something that's really big at BC, both in terms of the retreat culture that we have, in terms of reaching out to friends and building communities, but to have that in an academic setting with Professor Bignani was definitely really cool.
I want to speak on my experience in the Perspectives program. So like I said, I'm a political science and a Perspectives major, and Perspectives falls under the philosophy major. It's a multidisciplinary program that BC offers. It's specific to BC, and it incorporates its philosophy, but then it also incorporates economics and politics and literature and writing and the natural sciences. It's a four-year program, and their year-long classes, and they're double credit classes. And every single class so they're year-long classes, so I really get to know both my professor and my fellow peers in my classes way better than I would in, like, say, a semester class. And I have formed the most meaningful relationships and community in those classes. The questions that we ask in the classes, they tend to repeat throughout the program. So throughout my 4 years, it's basically asking and trying to answer the questions of what the best regime is, what is the good life, and what is human nature, what's the root of human nature, and what do we strive towards as humanity. And I just feel like my conversations that I had in those classes really impacted how I view myself in this world, and how I view the world in general. And I feel like through my experience, just having these conversations, I've been able to kind of discuss and argue my different points way better. And like, I think Armani, your professor hosted dinners at her house. My Professor Brayman, he was the director of the Perspective program during my 4 years. I believe it's Professor Constance now. But Professor Brayman hosted a dinner every single semester. And he just invited us into his home with open arms and made dinner for us and just wanted to talk to us and know how our lives were going. And I just feel like the faculty here, especially in my Perspectives program that I was involved in, they really care about who you are as a person and how you're doing. And I feel like that's very special to BC. And as you can see with Armani and Walsh, like, it's not just in Perspectives, it's throughout in different disciplines. And I just feel like that's really special about BC, and I really have appreciated it, and it's allowed me to really communicate better and just form relationships with other people that I wouldn't normally form relationships with.
Yeah, for me, it was very similar to like Armani's point. I was very, very concerned coming from high school, whether I would make such deep relationships with my professors. I came in really scared. I had 5 professors in high school that I would go to about anything. I would be completely honest with them. And then coming to BC, an enormous institution where I really did not know any faculty member to that level yet, was very scary, kind of starting from scratch. But the best thing that could have happened was really engaging myself in every course that I had my freshman year. This year I go back to my freshman writing seminar professor all the time. You should take him, Alex Lorenzo. He's great. He's super sweet. But I think the main reason why we connected was because I was so honest when it came to just doing the work and really showing a professor that you are involved in their class and you really care about their work is a great way to just start a relationship. you know, with him, it was just going to his office hours to talk about a paper, and we ended up talking about life, which I know sounds like really weird, but we would end up talking about anything versus like family and career plans, you know, his job, my career plans as a nurse, and my interest in psych, and he was a psych minor as well in college. So I would say like the relationships will come as long as you are open to this community and as long as you're open to the professors as much.
So now something that's been coming up is just for you, I remember, Vanessa, you talked about how you started off pre-med and now you're poly sci perspectives. Where were you all when you were coming into BC as to like what you wanted to study? Maybe for you, Alejandra, especially the fact that you applied directly to the School of Nursing, how did your experiences in the classroom validate what you wanted to study?
Great. So, I can go first. It was terrifying to kind of commit to a 4-year program so early, especially since BC was quite honestly one of the 2 schools of nursing that I applied to. So I was still very much on the fence. I think every nursing student gets the question of why nursing and why not go be a doctor, or why not be a researcher or go into bio, which I very much was planning on doing in high school. So it was, I enjoyed science, so all of my nursing classes I enjoyed, but I think what convinced me that I was in the right program and in the right career was the fact that my professors had the right answer for everything about nursing, in terms of they would say things like, you don't have to be 100% that you're in nursing yet, all of freshman year. They were like, a lot of people aren't sure freshman year. You kind of just sign up for a program and everyone's just kind of lost. Everyone's thinking in the back of their mind that they're going to switch to pre-med in a semester, that they're going to catch up to pre-med or do something in bio. And I was like, oh my God, that's so true. Like, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking that if I didn't like it, like I'll just drop out and it'll be fine and I'll go into Morsi. But it's really just being open to the fact that you're in nursing, kind of committing to a career so early, and it's noticing whether it is for you and being very honest. If you're not enjoying the classes and you're not feeling it at all, there's no shame in dropping out, or at least like looking into other courses or looking into other majors. I did my minor in psych because I was actually thinking of switching to psych as a major. And then nursing was like, oh, okay, that's awesome. Like, we could totally help you if you want to switch over. And then they were like, you know, you could do a minor though. Like, you don't have to leave us. And I was like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. Like, I'm just dumb. But that was really my experience. Like, I was not sure coming in. And then after my last clinical last semester, it just finished convincing me that I was in the right program.
Yeah, I really like what Alejandra said about being honest with yourself, because I feel like I was not honest with myself my whole freshman year until sophomore year, when I decided to switch to political science, and then I added perspectives later. So I came in as pre-med, and I didn't have a passion for pre-med or being a doctor, but I just knew that it was a safe answer to tell my family, or my dad especially, because he definitely he wanted me to do something big. If I was going to a school such as BC, I had to do something big, and it had to have big impact. And I don't know, that's how he viewed it. And I said, okay, then I'll just say doctor, and that'll be the safe answer I tell my parents. And then I get to BC and I'm taking my classes, and this was amidst the election year of 2016. And I was also taking a science class because I knew I had an interest in politics, so I double majored, and I did biology major, and I did political science major. So I was able to take a political science class, and I found that the difference between me, the days I had to go to my biology and chemistry classes, and then the days I had to go to my political science classes, were staunchly different. I looked forward to my political science classes. I was excited. I loved doing the readings. With my chemistry and biology classes, it just was not for me at all. And I felt like I was, especially during the election year, it was 2016. So I felt like, okay, there's so much going on right now in politics, and I want to understand it more. I want to know what structures are in place in our government that are allowing this to happen. And I was really passionate about it. I mean, I still am, but I felt much more passionate about it. And then with biology and science, I said, it's not fulfilling to me. And I had to be honest with myself and realize that, you know, maybe being a doctor, saying that like saying that I'm going to be a doctor and that being a safe thing is not the best thing for me to do. And so then I switched after my first year to be a political science major, only a political science major. I took out biology, and it was the best decision I made because I was honest with myself, and I didn't have to think about, okay, well, what would my parents want for me? I do take that into regard, but in the end, it's you taking the classes and you being interested in what you're interested in. And I wasn't interested in biology and chemistry. I commend those people who are interested in it, because I like, oh my gosh, my heart goes out to you. I wanted to be, but I just couldn't. And my interest and inclination was towards politics and then eventually philosophy. But I really going back to the main point is just being honest with yourself and really making these decisions for yourself, and taking other people's advice into account, because I think it is important to, see a bigger picture. But in the end, you're going to be taking these classes, you're going to be majoring in these things, and you're going to be having to endure all the work that goes into it. So I feel like being honest with yourself is the most important thing when you're deciding like a major or what program to take at BC.
Great. Now there's two questions that are interrelated to one another. So I'll just put it a general, broader question. What's it like to be an AHANA student in a predominantly white institution? What's that like? How does that play out in the classroom? The two questions that address this are, given that BC is a predominantly white institution, how is AHANA promoting discussions of race culture between all groups? And the second question is, can you describe the typical racial makeup of a class and if you feel comfortable asking questions and participating in discussion? So interrelated, but I think the bigger question here is, what's it like to be a person of color at BC in the academic setting?
So I can speak to that a little bit. So I came from a predominantly white high school as well. So it was a little less of a shock coming into college in terms of that perspective. I was still very much aware that I was, the minority in a classroom. In terms of the School of Nursing, they are very, very good about stating the obvious. And they're very good about saying things, truly, and saying, well, we have about 88% of our students are female and also white. And they speak about the lack of diversity in nursing and how they're trying, the projection for how it should improve. For me, freshman year, that was the big hit because I was seeing that daily in classes. It was, you had a very small percentage that was diversity. And it kind of shocked me when we had an entire discussion on this by our dean of school. And I was a little proud, to be honest. I was glad that she was bringing it to light. I was glad that she was talking about it. And I was glad that she was talking about BC's limitations in that way. She discussed obviously a lot more in statistics and logistics of how they plan on improving the situation. But that for me was kind of a highlight. I don't think BC ever hides that part of their lack of diversity, I'd say, but at least in nursing, that's what I've experienced.
Yeah, just talking about being in the classroom and experiencing it, I had, still have a very similar experience to Alejandra about being, kind of looking around, or I guess looking on Zoom now and seeing that, I might be the only Asian guy, the only Asian, the only AHANA student in a classroom. But again, I came from a predominantly white institution for high school as well, coming from public high school. And so I think they did know how to kind of like navigate those spaces, but at the same time, it never felt like hostile, right? That I was being looked at as an other within a classroom. Whenever it came to discussions for like my finance classes or my management classes, whenever the idea of diversity came up, I never, I almost expected when the question of diversity comes up for everyone to like look at me and be like, oh, let's let the Asian kid answer this question. But the fact that I think everyone is really curious about other perspectives and people are just intellectually curious here, just combined to give this environment where
I think we lost it.
Your ideas are, your ideas should be voiced first in a classroom, that your background and whatever colors your experience should be projected, into the classroom. And so professors encourage this My friends, they ask me like, hey, like, I was a Catholic, white guy who went to a Catholic high school. Clearly, I had a different upbringing than you. Walsh, what is it like to, be a minority, both not only at BC, but in the world in general? And so I think having these conversations definitely helps and makes my experience as a minority at a predominantly white institution, not only like bearable, but definitely enjoyable to know that other people are out there, not only being allies, but just, being curious friends.
Yeah, I'll say so. I've had very different backgrounds than Walsh and Alejandra. Like, I'm from the Bronx, New York. I went to relatively local schools my entire life. So coming to BC was actually the first time I was in a classroom with a white student, believe it or not. And that was just my experience. But one thing I can say, like, to test like Walsh's point, is that you have a lot of curious people at BC who generally do care about like your background, who you are, and what you like, and I guess like your experiences. And there's a lot of opportunity for that in the classroom at BC. But even in those classrooms that it feels like there's not, I've often found spaces where I could talk about that as well. For example, like my freshman year, I took an ideas in math class with Thomas Holst. And keep in mind, it's ideas in math. Like, there's not much qualitative work that goes into that. But even just from going to his office hours, I've gotten into conversations with him about just like my background, who I was, how I felt at BC, and like he genuinely cared to learn about that, my background. So I kind of just set the tone for like the type of people, the curious minds that are at BC, for faculty and staff, but for the student population as well. And I'll be lying if I said I've never been in a classroom where I was the only Black student, but I would say that there's definitely a certain, like I mentioned already, like a different level of like curiosity and like openness. I feel like when it comes to this like racial discrimination, diversity, issues of like diversity and inclusion, I don't really get that experience where like, it comes up and everybody's looking at me. I feel like a lot of students at BC kind of take that upon themselves to educate themselves and feel like they could contribute to it as well.
Awesome. Now, how have you all grown as a student here at BC? Who were you as a student, as a freshman, and where are you now? How have you grown?
Okay, well, I feel like I've grown personally, academically, socially, and religiously. I said that I came to BC because of mostly because of the Catholic religion, and then there have been so many other reasons, like Walsh said, why I've chosen to stay. Personally, my values, I feel like I've solidified my values of family and faith and love and compassion and service to others. I've been able to partake in different activities and different organizations, both on and off campus, that have really enhanced these values and allowed me to, build community, both on and off campus. I was able to teach catechism classes off campus. Currently, I'm president of OLA, which is the Organization of Latin American Affairs, and I just feel like, and even in my classrooms, I've been able to really solidify my values as a person. And then academically, I've been able to partake in my interests in political science and philosophy, and really delve into the different treatises or different theories. And I've never done that. But before I came to BC as a high school student, I had never even thought about philosophy or politics, other than the little canvassing that I did with my mom, and I didn't really enjoy it. But now I love it, and I don't know, I feel like in that way I've grown academically. And then religiously, I had a really tough time my freshman year, and I turned to my religion. I would go to church a lot by myself, and I didn't really branch out to make friends at first. And then from there, I made my confirmation, and I've had such great conversations with people that I go to church with, or even in classes. We have to take theology class as a core. In my classes, I've had great conversations with people who are, like Walsh said, intellectually curious or religiously curious. Like, they don't believe in God, but they want to hear about it. And just in every which way possible, I feel like I've grown so much. I'm a completely different person than I was freshman year, and much more confident and much more willing to serve others. I feel like I really had to take a look at myself and do some self-reflection throughout these 4 years to realize who I am and what I want to do and how I want to serve others. And through all of this and through all these 4 years, I'm looking back and I have grown a lot, and I've loved every single second of it.
So I'm only a sophomore, but I can already see that there's been a change since freshman year, or I hope there has. But I would definitely say that, you know, coming from high school, I kind of limited myself to 3 big things. It was academics, sports, oh, I forgot. Okay, and service. So those are my, you know, 3 main pillars. It's kind of what I focused on. And then coming into college, I was like, okay, it's going to be all work, work, work freshman year. Like, that's kind of the idea I think a lot of people come with. It's like, after I get control of all my classes, I'll sign up for anything I want, which was really bad because I didn't really structure out my time well my first semester freshman year. And I was very frustrated that I had kind of left behind those things that I was very passionate about. You know, I didn't play volleyball anymore. I didn't do Frisbee. I was very limited in the service that I was providing to the community. You know, partly because I didn't really know much about Boston community or the opportunities here. But I think slowly I got more and more involved through nursing, but also through programs like the SAP program, you know, BC Bigs, just like the big programs that, you know, you kind of get more involved in little by little. I think that like my position now in college is I've enhanced the parts that I really, really do love. I love service. It is one of my biggest passions in life. You know, going into nursing, I feel like at one point I'll be able to kind of dedicate myself solely to that. And I really do think that BC offers a lot of opportunities for that specific, you know, role. As of right now, my favorite extracurricular activity is BC Bigs, where I'm assigned like a little, and she's 10 years old. She's so adorable, and I love her. And she's from like Franklin Field. She's very cute, and we come in every week and we kind of just hang out with her. I hang out with her and we do activities. And I feel like that was something that I was very much missing from freshman year, and realizing that and knowing in the back of my mind now sophomore year that there are things that I should indulge in. There are things that I can, you know, be more happy in throughout the year versus just, you know, let's just work and try and get through this. And, you know, 4 years goes by so fast. Like, we're already, me and Armani are about to be halfway through. And I feel like I look back and I'm just like, there's so many things that I wish I could have done. And there's so many things I wish that I will still be able to do as the years come by.
Yeah, just talking about how I've changed personally. I think that Vanessa, you really just brought up a good point that, like, you know, I'm a senior now, Gian, you're a senior. And so just like looking back and thinking about how much that I've accomplished in these 4 years is definitely insane. But the biggest thing I think that BC has helped me with in terms of growing from that 18-year-old who first enrolled at BC as a freshman is definitely went through the road, did the classes that I was supposed to do, did the AP classes that I was supposed to do, volunteering, extracurriculars, just trying to, you know, fill all these check boxes so that I could go and apply to a good school, wherever that may be. And so now that I got here and no one was telling me what to do, no one was kind of, you know, putting that carrot over my shoulder saying, go and run after this. It was a little scary to, you know, be able to pick what I actually wanted to do, to have that freedom to choose what interested me academically, what interested me socially. So I think the ability for me to just pick the classes, look at mentors, ask, you know, why are you X major? Why are you going into Y job? Why are you applying to graduate school? And just at seeing that all their answers were because, you know, I like to do it. That's definitely one way in which I've grown. So I've seen that through the classes that I've taken, the extracurriculars that I've done, the friends that I've made, both for students and for professors. Yeah, just having that freedom and having my ability to explore that is definitely a big way that I've changed.
I'll say the place where I saw the most growth in myself from my freshman and sophomore year is I felt like my freshman year, I was just focusing on being an AHANA student. And then my sophomore year, I was more focused on being a BC student. And that took a lot of growth for me and just stepping out of my comfort zone. I feel like oftentimes it could be like a track for like students of color at BC where you might join a cultural club your freshman year. You might have lived on MLE, which is our multicultural living experience, your freshman year. You might have joined a dance team and a couple other things. The only thing I didn't do was the dance team. But outside of those, like I had those experiences. So I was a part of the Caribbean Culture Club my freshman year. I'm actually president now. I went on the civil rights trip, which was also an amazing experience. So all those things are still at the core of my experience at BC and like what I hold really close to me, but also just widening my net and just getting immersed in the BC experience as a whole, not just being specifically a student of color. For example, I'm a marketing intern now. That's something I picked up my sophomore year, and I really enjoyed that. And there's not too much diversity on the marketing team, so being able to share, like, be in that space and share my presence is something that I'm really happy to do. I'll be a RA next year, which is great. I'm really excited for that. There wasn't too many students of color who were RAs, so like I feel like that will also be really good for the community as well. So just being able to take my background, who I am, and actually like apply that to the BC community. I'm grateful to have that opportunity for. So just so just widening my net and just having a wider BC experience, just not only focused on like allowing BC to be a place of growth, not just comfort for me. And I've definitely like plan on expanding on that within the next 2 years as well.
Well, we're winding down on the program, so maybe just one more question. What advice would you give incoming AHANA students regarding academics?
I'd say for me, the biggest piece of advice that I wish that I had gotten was not to be shy, to be that person that's going to go and take advantage of all the resources that BC has to offer. Alejandra, you were mentioning how you should be the one that's advocating for yourself. And I think that is something that is really good advice. Go to your professor. Your professor will have open office hours, but your professor has, 20 other students in the class, their own research to handle. So they might not reach out to you first. Some professors will, but the fact that you can go and just walk in their office and get to know someone who's an expert in their field is really cool. In these 4 years, your peer group around you, your friends, and everyone around you at BC is so smart. And so you should also take the advantage to just meet everyone that you can. Even the other 3 panelists here have amazing stories that I've never heard before. And it's just really interesting to hear their different experiences that they've had in college. Just being able to soak up as much as you can and doing that by being curious is a piece of advice that I would give.
Yeah, and just to like build off a little bit on that idea, don't feel that just because you're not doing well right off at the beginning of college, you're dumb, or there's something wrong, or BC made a mistake. Obviously you were accepted for a reason. They saw potential in you, and you really just have to kind of build on that and be confident that you're here for a reason. I remember my freshman year, I did so well first semester. I was like, oh, this is great, like college is going to be so easy, I cannot wait until like I graduate, it's going to be such a breeze. Second semester came, and all the nursing professors, it seemed like they made a pact to kind of like turn the volume up on every single course. And it just kind of hit in this first wave of like the beginning of second semester. And I was like, oh my God, what did I do? Like I made a mistake. I relaxed too much. Like I definitely did something wrong. And it's not that. It's that college is a learning curve. There is a new way to study. I had never had 4 exams on a single day where no professor would move the day. You have essays due at like 12 o'clock at midnight or 11:30, which I don't understand why it's 11:30, but you have different deadlines to meet, and just be cautious that everyone's going through the same panicky moments, the same anxiety. And that you're not alone. And more than anything, like I was very quiet about my anxiety at first, and I was like, it's okay, like I'll suffer in silence, like it's fine, like I'll just get everything done at some point. And then the next morning, or like an hour after the assignment was due, I would get like 5 different texts from nursing students that was like, that was horrible, I gave in a terrible essay. And I was like, oh my God, I feel the same way. So it's very much like, just know that you're not alone, that these feelings of insecurity and of worry are really just part of being in college, and part of the learning curve that comes in freshman year.
Yeah, I agree with Alejandra. I would advise just bring what you have to the table and then grow from there. You guys are all here because you're bright and capable individuals who shine in whatever environment you guys are put in. So, and once you come to BC, this is a different environment, but there's room for growth. And like Alejandra said, again, you have to just be confident in who you are. I feel like it took me a while to be confident in who I am, and to reach out to people who I needed to reach out to. I don't think I reached out to professors for office hours until my junior year, which I regret. Please don't do that. Please reach out to your professors right away, whether you're having trouble or you enjoy the class. They want to engage with you either way, and they're here to engage in conversations with you. I would also advise to engage in conversations that challenge you or challenge your beliefs, or you feel like you're learning or growing from. I feel like I learned a lot from my peers when I just got a coffee at Hillside with them. And Hillside's a little cafeteria in Maloney that you'll probably go to a lot. And I would get coffee with my peers, and we just talk about class or what's going on in the world, society, politics. And I really want, I feel like it's so important to engage in conversations that you might not know too much about, but this person does. Like this person or this faculty member or this professor, they might know a little bit more, and it's good to engage in those conversations, even though you might not have much to bring, because you could learn so much and you ask the right questions, and there's just so much to learn from everyone that's here at BC. And I really encourage just engaging in whatever conversation you can with whoever you can.
I would say the biggest piece of advice I could leave with you guys is to study what you love, and not necessarily just what you feel would make you the most money, or what you feel would make you the most successful. Obviously, success is subjective, but however that looks in your mind or however that manifests. I personally feel that when you are immersed in and actually like studying something that you personally enjoy and you're fulfilled with, that success is going to come regardless. I have like a lot of friends who came into BC or are still doing that now, who felt like they had to come into BC and be an econ major or finance concentration in the Carroll School of Management to be successful. But honestly, those things don't really matter. That was probably the biggest lesson I learned my freshman year, because I actually went through I transferred schools actually my freshman year from the Carroll School of Management to the Lynch School of Education. And from that experience, I remember just going to like a lot of different networking events with alumni who were like investment bankers and were English majors. And I didn't see like where that correlation was my freshman year. It didn't make sense to me. But they're obviously doing very well, and obviously had that success from studying what they enjoyed, which was English. But like those skills and like that attention to detail that they probably received as an English major, being able to read and write well, those are still applicable in their career paths. So just being able to find your passion, find where you're comfortable academically, and strive in that, not just necessarily force yourself into something just because you feel like it will provide a better outcome. I feel like you're doing yourself more of a disservice than anything.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us through this entire program.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you, guys.
everyone.
Thank you.